Hey, what's up everyone? If you've seen my previous videos, you know I'm pretty obsessed with the unique slice of EU collecting, which involve these non-Star Wars magazines that nonetheless contain unique contributions to Star Wars, often in the form of original game scenarios that align with West End games, Wizards of the Coast, and other products like that. Instead of diving into this particular magazine and the set of magazines in this run, I wanted to sort of give a brief overview to Voyages magazine in general, and then in future videos dive into some of the individual issues and individual scenarios and unique EU contributions sort of specifically. Voyages magazine here starts actually with issue 7, and for our purposes runs through issue 17. What's a little funny is that, again, it begins with issue 7. The reason for that is that prior to that, issues 1 through 7 were actually known as Jump Space, and it was specifically focused on RPG scenarios relating to the old RPG classic Traveler. Issue 7 here sort of broadens the horizons. We have contributions to a number of different sci-fi fantasy sort of platforms, including obviously something popular at the time, this being published in 1989, the West End game Star Wars materials. It was published and edited by James B. King, a very important figure in early RPG gaming, who himself made a number of contributions to the West End games content, particularly like one of the Kraken's guides, things like that. But a very important voice in both Traveler and then again later to Star Wars in the form of contributions here, including the illustrations. This is one of his illustrations here. He made some illustrations in some of the West End games material specifically as well. One of the challenges in terms of understanding the sort of the full range here, in addition to actually collecting these things, is that, in addition to the major name change from Jump Space to Voyages beginning with issue 7, throughout the run from issues 7 through 17, again for our purposes, the name slowly starts to morph. And so here we have Voyages to the Worlds of Science Fiction Gaming. Quite a mouthful, right? And it remains that way for a number of issues. And then it starts to shorten to Voyages to the Worlds of SF Gaming, to the point where by the end it just becomes Voyages SF. So one of the most helpful ways of actually going about collecting and searching for these things is just to sort of look for Starlance Publications, which is ultimately sort of the public, the publishing alias of James B. King, the editor and ultimate publisher of these magazines. Of course, in doing that, you'll find a lot of the other things that he did, the other ventures, including Jump Space. But it's all worthwhile, particularly if you're into RPG stuff in general. But again, for Star Wars EU purposes, issues 7 through 17 is really all you need to sort of concern yourself with. I have them all, unfortunately, in this pile. I'm missing 2 because of the hundreds of magazines like this. They're a bit spread out throughout my collection. One of the things I've been doing recently is trying to sort of file these all in a more coherent way, but I didn't want to stop that from sort of giving an overview of these in the meantime. So again, issue 7 here, James B. King illustration on the front. Issue 8, issue 9, issue 10, issue 11, issue 12, and what's nice about these is that there's a pretty straight run all the way through issue 13. I'm missing 14, although 14 is definitely one that also includes Star Wars material. I don't have 16 in this pile as well, but again, it's somewhere in my collection, but it's also one you need to pick up for Star Wars stuff. And then finally, issue 17 with something that appears like Star Trek on the cover, but of course you can see Star Wars with a scenario, Mr. Bad Spanner, including some Traveler stuff at the bottom. It never really lost its Traveler roots. So again, just sort of a really brief overview about Voyages to the Worlds of Science Fiction Gaming, or Voyages to the Worlds of SF Gaming, or just Voyages SF. In future videos, I will be going through each individual issue and explaining more about the scenarios and unique EU contributions in each